Welcome back to my channel, sports fans. Okay, let's get into this one right here. Well, Jim at Self Research NBA Facts is at it again, folks. And I got to tell you, this guy has made himself into a clown over Bill Russell. And I told you, it struck a chord with me yesterday, or whenever he did it. He did a video talking about top 75 players who shot over 50% in a finals run. Not 50%, but you had to be over 50%. How many times they shot 50% in games en route to the NBA Finals? And, you know, he was there to condemn LeBron James, like always. No problem with that. You know, LeBron James gets the smoke for a lot of stuff. But for some reason, as he picks and chooses, he left out the merger guys, or before the merger, pre-merger. So he just left all them out on purpose because he didn't want Bill Russell to be on there. You know, he went through centers and, you know, power forwards and guards and, you know, just guys in the top 75. But for some reason, it had to be after the merger. He didn't want to put in the guys from the, you know, early 70s, the 60s, the 50s and stuff like that because he wanted to protect Bill Russell. And we're going to do a video on that, but I just seen him do a video on all-time teams for a top 75 player. So he basically put guys that, you know, say like Michael Jordan, the guys he played with, the all-time great players that would be on his team that he played with in his career. You know, he did some for Kareem, Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, and, you know, Shaq and Kobe and LeBron James. And, you know, pretty much the video was to condemn LeBron James in saying that he had maybe the best all-time team as far as all the great players he played with, as far as the start five. He did do Bill Russell, but he made an effort to condemn people like Wilt Chamberlain and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for playing with all these great players in their career. But when he got to Bill Russell, he tried to backpedal and say, oh, no, you know, people saying he played with these 6, 7, 8 Hall of Famers, and that wasn't the case. And, you know, just blah, blah, blah. This is what he does, man, to protect Bill Russell. We already know the 60 Celtics, they were the greatest team of all time. And any team next to that, the Boston Celtics was double as good as them. When we looked at the All-NBA, in the All-Star, in the Hall of Famers, in the top 75. We already looked at it. We did a 4-part series on that, showing that Bill Russell is not a top 25 player. Now, I had him at 4 until Jim started, I don't know, pooping in the face of Wilt Chamberlain for being a two-way player. And most of those guys of that era, you know, the Oscar Robertsons being, well, we could say a lot of those guys in that era were either all-around players or two-way players. Something Bill Russell wasn't. All Bill Russell had to do was play defense and be a modern-day Dennis Rodman. That's it. And I know, you know, people get mad. Oh, man, how you comparing to Dennis Rodman? I'm talking about as far as his skills. And we're going to see this in that video, we're about to do right now, because I keep trying to tell you guys, Bill Russell is nothing or was nothing but a modern-day Dennis Rodman. And we're talking about skills. We're not talking about mindset or nothing like that. And I hate now when people talk about his leadership, but who was he leading? When we talk about the Celtics brought 3/4 of Bill Russell's career, 3 first-team All-NBAs every year, 3/4 of his career. And I think it was Wilt Chamberlain did play with an All-NBA player until like his 6th or 7th season. By the time then, the Celtics had already had 14 All-NBA players before Wilt Chamberlain played with one. And this is a guy that he poops in his face for this and that. He does it on Jerry West. He does it on Elgin Baylor, Bob Pettit, Oscar Robertson, all these guys who were all-around players or two-way players. But he puts Bill Russell in his top 3 of all time. Wow, that's crazy. And look, I don't have no problem with that. If you want to put Bill Russell top 3, that's fine. I don't even have him top 25 now, after we did the 4-part series. But he has to poop on Wilt Chamberlain and other guys to justify him putting a one-way player, a brickfest, as we will see, in his top 3 guys. And he continues to like omit the pre-merger guys out of certain subjects because he don't want to make Bill Russell look bad. And like I said, this all-time team of top 75 players, Bill Russell should have been number 1. Bill Russell should have been number 1, but he didn't put what he needed to put on there. Just because these guys are, you know, you played with those guys at the time, that don't mean they made All-NBA every year. That don't mean they made All-Star every year. And they were at their peak every year. A lot of those guys that Bill Russell played with on his all-time team were at their peak. Bill Russell either came into the league and played with those guys at their peak. They got drafted while Bill Russell was at his peak. And they was winning all these championships. He won't mention that. He'll put a guy like Wilt Chamberlain on Jerry West's all-time team, but Wilt was like in his 8th or 9th season. That wasn't the same Wilt Chamberlain. And that's what he does. He does this stuff, man. This guy is turning into a joke. And I'm not trying to say his channel is bad, but for some reason, this protection of Bill Russell and not really exposing Bill Russell for who he is, which for me, he's not overrated. People are overrating Bill Russell. So let's get into this. One of these things that these fools always talk about, Bill Russell, he shot 44% for his career. That was league average. Not to mention, they never mentioned that Bill Russell was a center. He played under the basket. It was positional basketball back then. The centers played under the basket. That's why he had all these rebounds, him and Wilt Chamberlain and the centers and stuff like that, because they were under the basket. They weren't shooting the mid-range. They weren't shooting the threes. They were right under the basket when they were shooting. Now, Wilt, he could shoot a mid-range. He invented what we call was a fadeaway. So, 1960, the league average field goal percentage for centers was 45.1%. That's for centers. Oh, not the 60s. The 60s. That was the average for centers. Now, mind you, when they say average, that don't mean everybody was shooting at 45%. Some of them was shooting lower than that, and some of them was shooting higher than that. So Bill Russell was shooting under 45% for his career in the 60s. Under 45, he was shooting 44. So let's get into this real quick. We're just going off of AI. AI ain't always accurate, ain't always right, but it's pretty. That's what Jim does his off of. His video is AI. He gets all his stuff from AI. So let's look at this. Bill Russell had 13 playoff games where he shot under 40% from the field. 13 playoff games is the number of times data shows his field goal percentage was below 40% in playoff games. 13? This ain't 40%. This is under 40%. Bill Russell shot under 30%. Under 30%. We just said 40. He shot under 40% in 13 playoff games. This is Bill Russell shot under 30% in at least 21 times in playoff games. And it might be more. What's it say? 5 NBA final games during his career. Let me see. No, I think this is wrong. Let me see, because I went in a playoff final series. Bill Russell, in all his final series, shot under 40%. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times shot under 40%. One of these years shooting under 40%, he shot 31.6. The other one, 34.7. One of them is 35.6. One of them is 38.6. And one of them is 39.7. Let me see. Bill Russell shot under 40% from the field, 17 NBA Finals games during his career. I mean, that's just crazy. In the finals, his single field goal percentage range was from 18% to 70%. 18%? And when they say 70%, we're talking about this guy only shot like 6. Bill Russell never shot 50% or better from the field in any 13 regular seasons. That's it. Never. In a season, guys. So what the breakdown is that Bill Russell shot under 50% every single season of his playoff career, with a career playoff field goal percentage of 43%. He was an elite defender and rebounder. I told you guys, a Dennis Rodman. So in the playoffs, 57, 36%, 58, 36%, 59, 40%, 60, 45%, 61, 42%, 62, 45%, 63, 45%, 64, 35%. What's it say? 65, 52%. This is the only season over 50%, so he was not under 50%. So it was one season in 65 he did shoot 52%. 66, 47%. 67, 36%. 68, 40%. 68, 40%. 69, 42%, guys. This is the guy that, Jim won't talk about. This guy was a brick fest underneath the basket. I think we might have already went. Bill Russell shot 40% from the field. No, under 40% from the field. 12 NBA Finals appearances. Oh, we already went through that. And what is this? Bill Russell under 50% in 12 NBA Finals series. We went over that. But here's some of them right here. It says 57. He shot 34%. Let me make sure. Yeah, this is NBA Finals. And 57. Yeah, we already went over this. But here's some more numbers. Whatever. So 57, 34%. 58, 32%, 59, 31%, 60, 45%, 61, 42%, 62, 41%, 63, 41%, 64, 38%, 65, 70%. In, I think, 66, he shot, I want to say 46%. So, let me say, during his career, Bill Russell shot under 50% in the NBA Finals 52 of 70 games he played in the NBA Finals. He didn't have put on winning 11 championships. What's so good about that? Bill Russell shot under 40% from the field 17 NBA Finals games in his career. In the finals, his single game field goal percentage, we already said that. It ranged from there. I think pretty much this is it right here. Bill Russell shot under 30% in a playoff game at least 21 times. In 13 playoff games, Bill Russell had 13 playoff games where he shot under 40% from the field. I'm just saying, guys, this guy is a complete brick fest. And this is why I said he didn't want to, he won't put these numbers out here. And I don't want to hear nothing about the league average was 45%. That's league average. That's league average. We're talking about the guys on the perimeter, the guards, the point guards, and maybe the small forward is shooting like that. Shooting 45%, shooting 44%, shooting 43%. A center shouldn't be shooting 44%. But they will make it look like Jim, these type of guys like this guy was a catalyst to these 11 championships shooting a brick fest in a fast-paced era where guys' numbers are inflated. Not only that, we found out that his numbers that he won his MVPs in his seasons, he won MVP scoring, averaging 14 points per game, 16 and 18 points per game. That was his averages, winning 5 MVPs, guys. And we put that pace of play back to the 90s. He's averaging 11 to 13 points per game. Meanwhile, the same guys that he was winning MVP over, the Jerry West, the Bob Pettis, the Oscar Robertsons, the Elgin Baylors, the Wilt Chamberlains, these guys was averaging anywhere between 50 points and 30 points per game. And I don't want to hear that, Bill Russell was doing, he was getting rebounds and he was getting blocks, and that's what these guys were doing too. They were getting all these inflated assists and they were getting inflated rebounds for their position. They were doing the same thing, guys. They were shooting better than him, scoring way better and more efficient, and were two-way players or all-around players. And Bill Russell was nothing but a rebounder and a shot blocker, which I don't have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. We have all-time greats who were just that. The Ben Wallaces, the Dennis Rodmans, the Dwight Howards. He could score a little bit more. But we have guys throughout NBA history, that were great shot blockers and great rebounders. But because Bill Russell had the stacked team, the most stacked team of all time, and that's excused by Jim. We did a 4-part series on this, showing you that, again, the Boston Celtics of the 60s, they're the most stacked team and double that of any all-time great team. He basically, it condemns these all-time great players. Came into the league with 2 All-NBA teammates. And I think they're top 75. The first year Bill Russell was in the league, Bob Cousy won MVP. And who is this guy? I forget this guy's name. Is it Heinsohn? No, it's not. It's Shaman. Is it Bob Scheinman? No, not Bob. I forget his name. Heinsohn won Rookie of the Year. That's what I was trying to get at. Not Bill Russell. But he tries to act like these guys are just regular players when it comes down to it. And Bob Cousy, when you check his resume, he's the greatest point guard of all time. Or he was, until Magic Johnson came in the league. So we sit there and, we condemn Kareem for playing with Magic, the greatest point guard of all time, once he came into the league. And he didn't really become the greatest point guard of all time or play that position. I think it was like 2-3 years into the league. So, yeah, this dude had the nerve, like I was telling you, to make these top 75 guys their all-time team. And I ain't got no problem with that. But some of them, like Kareem, who was it? It was Kareem, LeBron. It was somebody else, too. He said they played with so many good players that he had to make 2 all-time great teams for them. Oh, my God. It was hilarious what this guy does. And a lot of guys that he was, doing an all-time team for, they weren't playing with these guys in their prime. They were out their prime. They was on the second leg of their career. They wasn't leaders. But he was still condemning these players for playing with all-time great players. But you got Bill Russell. You probably could have made 3 all-time teams for him. This is what he does, man. This is why you can't take this guy halfway serious. Because, like I say, Bill Russell is omitted out of most of the things he puts in because Bill Russell don't measure up. Bill Russell was a one-way player. Most of the guys in the top 10, what were they? They were either all-around players, right? As far as getting you assists, points, and rebounds. Or they were two-way players. Guys that were great offensively and defensively. Bill Russell is excused from that, guys. To me, his coaching is overrated. When you look at it, who is he coaching? He's already coaching guys that was winning championships with him to win more championships after Red Auerbach left. That's not true. So he was coaching Hall of Famers and top 75 players. And then we looked at, some of these guys who, didn't have accolades on their team as far as, they made all NBA or anything like that. But most of these guys on his team, like KC Jones and some other guys, they would have been on the all defensive team like 5-6 times. If it was an all defensive team back then, I'll promise you, out of 2 teams, the Celtics would have brought 4 guys. I wouldn't doubt if it was 5 guys. Because they brought from 58 all the way until like 66 or 67, they brought 3 players on all NBA all those years. That's like almost 10 years straight. And it was times where they had, like 3 to 4 All-Stars every single season. What is this guy talking about? Not only that, if you want to put Bill Russell at 2, wherever you want to put him 3, how come when we mention the all-time great teams, the greatest teams of all time, how come they don't say the Boston Celtics of the 60s? They always say the Shaq Kobe Lakers, the Durant Curry Golden State Warriors. They say the 80s Celtics, the 80s Lakers, maybe the 72, 71, 72 Lakers, something like that. Where's the 60 Celtics? Where they at? They won 11 championships. And they had the number 1 seed just about every single year. I want to say about, 8-9 years? You don't want to talk about that. So he's up there in the top 5, top 3 for Jim. Bill Russell is. But nobody talks about the Boston Celtics of the 60s, the all-time great team. To me, you can put many different versions of the 1960s Celtics as the greatest team of all time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why not? If we're sitting there condemning Wilt Chamberlain, Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor for not winning, Bob Pettit. Yes, both of them, Wilt Chamberlain and Bob Pettit, did win 1. But if we're condemning those guys of that era for not winning with the teams they had, because, you should have heard him. Wilt Chamberlain was loaded. He just played with a slew of guys. Nobody can understand why he wasn't winning, why Jerry West and Elgin Baylor weren't winning, or Oscar Robertson. Because Boston was better. Boston was better. So you have a couple choices right here. Well, again, when we talk about the all-time great teams, and they seem to omit the 60s Boston Celtics, different versions of them in different years, when they seem to not put them in there, what does that mean? I'm not even trying to say Jim. I'm trying to say, when you talk to most people of all-time great teams, you never hear the Boston Celtics. Are you saying their competition was weak? Or were they just too stacked? I think I heard maybe the 68 Celtics, or the 69, but how can that be? They were old. How can they be in contention of all-time great team? I'm not buying that. They don't have Bill Shaman on the team. I don't think they have Tom Heisen on the team. How can the 68 and 69 Celtics be up there with the all-time great teams? I'm not buying it. But I'm just saying, man, this is Bill Russell. I'm not trying to, condemn him for not being a great shooter. I'm just trying to tell you the facts. He's one of the worst shooters. Well, one of the guys in the top 75 or the Hall of Fame centers who are the worst shooters of all time. Now, I think Nate Thurman was in there, and, George Mikan. But guess what? Those guys ain't top 10. They're not top 25. They might not even be top 30. Yes, they're in the top 75, but they're not up there. So how can Bill Russell be up there? I'm just wondering. How can Bill Russell be up there for being a defensive player? Because when we talked about in the 4-part series, how Jim condemns these guys of the 60s era, he's always on top of them, talking about how much help they played with. How much help they played with. And they still lost to the Celtics. Okay, they lost to the Celtics, but where was their wiggle room? Their teams weren't stacked like the Boston Celtics. We know from the All NBA guys. You can come with, that's what he likes to say. He likes to bring names. He likes to bring names. The only guys that was playing with 2 guys on the All NBA, and this one even initially, I think it was Jerry West and Elgin Baylor. 2 guys on the All NBA in the 60s. But still, yeah. Where's the rest of their team compared to what Bill Russell had? And when I say that, I'm talking about the wiggle room. These guys didn't have the wiggle room. They didn't have the wiggle room like Bill Russell. When I say wiggle room, I'm talking about they had to play both sides of the ball. They had to play offense and they had to play defense. So, let me see. I think I still got it here. Oh, goodness. Okay. So from, what is it, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64. So from 58 to 64, the Boston Celtics brought 3 All-NBA guys. 3 guys on the Boston Celtics were All-NBA from 58 all the way until 64. That's nuts. It took for Wilt Chamberlain. He came in 59-60. From 60 all the way until 64, he didn't play with one All-NBA teammate. It was just him. And then he finally plays with one in 65. 66-1, 67-1, 68-1. And in that time, it continued for the Boston Celtics to be 2 to 3 All-NBA players from 65, 66, 67, and 68, 2 All-NBA or more on the Boston Celtics. It took until 68 until the Boston Celtics had one All-NBA, no, 69 until the Boston Celtics had one All-NBA player. That's crazy. So from when Bill Russell came into the league, 57, all the way until 68, they had 2 to 3 All-NBA players, or 2 to 3 players making all NBA. So that would be 29 in that stretch, from 57 all the way until 69. And from 60, when Wilt came in the league, Boston Celtics had 25 all-NBA players. That's crazy. Why he won't touch on that? We're not even counting all-stars. We want to count the all-stars, it's 29. Actually, it's more than that for the whole stretch. It was just 29 from 60, I think, to 69. The most stacked team of all time. We don't need to put out no names and all this. See, that's what he was doing when he did the all-time team. He was just throwing players out there. But how many of those players made all NBA in those years that they were playing together? He can't answer that. See, because if it was for Bill Russell and it was the other way around, he'd go, oh, well, them guys, was out their prime at the time. He loved it. Oh, they didn't make all-star team that year. They didn't make all NBA. They was out their prime. But again, Bill Russell, the guys he was playing with, was in their prime or just coming into the league when they was winning championships. Guys, if you ain't seen my 4-part series, you got to check it out. And this guy has the nerve to put him up there with Michael Jordan. I think he's got, his top 3, I think, is Michael Jordan, I think Bill Russell, and Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson. So we see right here that Wilt Chamberlain didn't play with an all-NBA teammate. He came in 59-60. He didn't play with an all-NBA teammate until when? 65. So 5 years without all-NBA teammate. In 6th year, that was Al Greer. Is he in? Where's Al Greer? In the top 75. Woof. I don't know if that guy's even in the top 50, guys. He definitely in the top 25. So we know what Kareem played with. He played with Magic Johnson. So Kareem is, I don't even think Kareem is in his top 5. That's how it comes out with this nonsense. Kareem is one of the greatest two-way players of all time. We did a video because he loves Dr. J too. We did a video versus him and Dr. J. Kareem smokes him. Because Kareem, okay, he wasn't coming in winning championships, but the 70s was a lot of parity. Dr. J was playing in the ABA, which I'm not going to hate on that era. It was some good guys in the ABA, and he was a beast in the ABA. But we did the video once he came into the NBA. I think he played 5 years in the ABA, and he was putting up monster numbers. Monster numbers that it looked like the 60s or something. But once he came into the NBA, his 6th season, the guy was never the same. In the ABA, he basically averaged about 27, 28 points per game in like double-digit rebounds. And looked like he averaged about 2 blocks a game or something like that, 2-3 blocks a game. Once he came into the NBA in his 6th season, remember Michael Jordan won his first championship in his 7th season. Once he came into the NBA with the merger, this guy is down to like 20 points per game, 23, 24, under 10 rebounds, 6, 7. And he makes no defensive team, guys. He made one defensive team in the ABA. I want to say that was a second. I'm not for sure. But he didn't make no all-NBA defensive teams in the NBA, guys. And one in the ABA. So basically, in the ABA, Dr. J was a one-way player. How do we know? Because he only made one defensive team. Come into the NBA, he's still a one-way player, but a weaker version one-way player. Because all of his stats just go down drastically. Kareem, one of the greatest two-way players of all time, consistently, through a 10-year period, consistently. And how do we know the NBA was better than ABA? Because like we said, when Dr. J come into the league, he was, I don't know, I'm just looking at the numbers. I want to say a shell of himself. I mean, that's hard to say because he was making all NBA first teams, all-star, whatever like that. But when you look at, you can't have it both ways. Either he was a shell of himself or the competition was just better in the NBA. He only won one championship, and Moses Malone won the finals MVP. I'm just saying, even if you say, oh, he didn't have that much help as this team, okay, that's fine. What about his numbers? How come he wasn't able to put up the same numbers? How come he wasn't able to make any defensive teams? One defensive team in his career, a one-way player, guys. Kareem is one of the greatest two-way players of all time. Two-time scoring champ, led the league in rebounds, led the league 4 times in shot blocks, and should have been like, what was it, like at least 6 or 7, but they didn't count it when he first came in the league. Kareem, the all-time scorer before LeBron James took that over. It's just laughable when guys like Jim try to put Dr. J. And like I said, it ain't nothing against Dr. J. He's an all-time great. But there's nobody in any circles that sit around and saying Dr. J is a top 10 player. They don't say it. Because what I just said, he wasn't no two-way player. His numbers dropped down once he came into the NBA, which means something. Either the NBA was a better brand or the ABA was a weaker brand. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to question what he did in the ABA. It was great. But when you came to save the league and your numbers drop off the map compared to what they used to be, how are you saving the league when you're not even putting up the same numbers? And you got fools out there, probably like Jim, and other fools talking about, if Dr. J was in the league, he would have, been winning those MVPs over Kareem. Maybe, maybe not. But we do know Kareem was a two-way player back then. And Dr. J wasn't in the NBA or the ABA. Just a great offensive player. Like we always said, if you make the defensive first team, that means you're a great defender. If you make the second, you're a good defender. Maybe a help defender. It depends on who beat you out on the first team. Maybe it was all-time great that beat you out on the first team. But a lot of those second teams, not all the time, but a lot of them, with Larry Bird, made 3 straight All-NBA second teams. Defensive. 3 straight All-NBA defensive teams, 3 in a row. Not spread out, 3 in a row. And I think that was the years he won 3 MVPs. So where's Dr. J's defense? How come he can't make defensive team? So if he can't even make second team, that means he's not even a good defender. Suspect. I'm just saying. We got to keep the standard across the board. A lot of these guys don't want to keep the standard across the board. They'll talk about this guy's defense. They'll talk about this guy's defense. And he was a two-way player. He was an all-around player. But when we look at Bill Russell, wasn't no all-around player or no two-way player. We look at, Dr. J, one all-around player, one a two-way player. All-time great players, yes. But Bill Russell, he's in the wrong category as far as, if we're talking about he should be up there for defense in the top 5 or in the top 10, I don't see no other player up there for just being a great defender. And then they'll say, oh, he was a great rebounder, great defender, and he won 11 championships. What's that mean? You got guys on his team that were two-way players or great all-around players that won 6 to 8 championships. So they shouldn't be in the top 5? What does this mean, man? It's ludicrous what these guys are talking about. You want to play favorites. You want to, move the goalposts when you make a video. This guy start making videos, putting out numbers that a lot of people already put out for years and didn't give them any credit for the numbers they put out. Now, he don't put out a lot of stuff that nobody put out. I'm not trying to say he didn't put out those numbers that nobody put out, but at the same time, he come out with this, this stat platform acting like nobody else put these stats out before. People been on YouTube putting these stats out for years against LeBron James or against just stats, period. And then most of the time he tells his stories with no context soap opera. That's what I would say. That's what he does. To favorite Bill Russell, to favorite Dr. J, to poop on Wilt Chamberlain, to poop on Jerry West, to poop on all these guys. But like I said, all NBAs, it tells it. He had a complete team going maybe, I don't know, probably about, when we look back at the videos, his team went about 8-9 deep. We didn't even put up the points per game that his teammates were scoring. He got guys coming off the bench scoring 14 points per game. His starters scoring 22, 28, 25. And like I said, we're two-way players or all-around players. But in his eyes, Bill Russell won 11 championships by shooting a brick fest under the basket and just playing defense. That's what won it. Forget about the fact that everybody else in the era, the Wilt Chamberlains, the Jerry West, the Elgin Baylors, the Bob Pettis, the Oscar Robinsons, these guys like that were two-way players and all-around players. But for some reason, they couldn't win doing more than what Bill Russell did. What a joke. What a joke. And I'm not trying to say don't watch his channel. He don't have good content or nothing like that. But I'm just saying this, for all the numbers he put out, he just tries to protect Bill Russell and Dr. J. It really ain't no protecting Dr. J. It really ain't. You really can't. Most people just don't buy the ABA, man. They just don't. It's not part of NBA history. I'm not trying to diss it, but they started up the ABA for guys who wanted to make more money. And Dr. J, he got drafted to the NBA. I want to say he got drafted to the Milwaukee Bucks. I think he got drafted over there with Kareem, but he didn't come over there. So he decided to go over there, and a lot of other guys did. I'm not condemning him for taking the money or nothing like that, but that's just the way it is, man. The NBA had always been the league with the most talent when it was all said and done. When they put the other leagues together and stuff like that, then they started this ABA later. Whatever. So we're just, wherever you want to put Bill Russell, that's fine. If you want to make up excuses for him, that's fine. There's a lot of people. The one thing is, you can't say we can't make excuses for LeBron James, which I'm not. That guy's a disgrace. We're not putting him and Bill Russell ever in the same category, because LeBron James is overrated. Bill Russell isn't overrated. They overrate him. That's the problem. And at one time, I did too. But again, when I seen them pooping on Wilt Chamberlain, I said, well, let's go do the homework. And then the homework was just like, I said, I don't care if it gets 100 views or 50 views or whatever views. As long as it's out there, maybe somebody else will pick it up, because my channel is shadow banned by YouTube. But as long as the information is out there in that 4-part series, it's out there for other people to see, to pick it up. Because for some reason, we're scared to talk about Bill Russell and about his real career. And again, not like he did something, he was a problem or nothing like that. It's because people are overrating him. And the only reason why they're overrating him, people like Jim, they poop on these other guys of the past to overrate Bill Russell. That's it. That's the only way you can put Bill Russell in that top 3, wherever you want to put him. And like I said, I was a fool at first. But the only reason you can put him in the top 5, top 10, you got to start pooping on other players. Because Bill Russell, just like I would say, man, I had to get the guy in my top 25. I just had to get to be realistic with the loaded teams he had, and then plus his skill set of a one-way player. And that don't bother me, like I said. But his skill set of a one-way player, no. It don't put him in the top 25. It just don't. There's other guys in front of him that were two-way players, all-around players, who were just better, NBA players. That's what it comes down to. And they didn't have the help that Bill Russell had. You put Bill Russell on Wilt Chamberlain's team, they don't even make the playoffs. And I'm talking about all the way from 1960 to 68. They might not even make the playoffs. Because we've seen, like, in Wilt Chamberlain's, the beginning of his years, he was playing with Hall of Fame teammates and All-Star teammates, but some of them guys were old, man. And he only played with them for like a couple years. They weren't even All-NBA. They only made All-Star probably because of their name coming out of the 50s. And it wasn't a lot of guys to pick from in that era. Not saying they weren't good, but he only played with them, those Hall of Fame guys, a couple years, and then they moved on. They weren't making no All-NBA. What did we I think the last video we made on Bill Russell, we put up all his Hall of Fame year by year. Let's do it again. And we're only going from 1960. So 1960 on the Celtics, it was, man, this is crazy. 1960, 1, 2, 3, 4 top 75 players and 3 Hall of Fame players on the Boston Celtics. On Wilt's team, 2 top 75, 2 Hall of Fame. In 61 on the Boston Celtics, 1, 2, 3, 4 top 75, 1, 2, 3 Hall of Famers. Wilt Chamberlain's team, 1, 2 top 75, 2 Hall of Fame. 62 Boston Celtics, what is it? 4 top 75 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Hall of Fame. For Wilt Chamberlain, 2 top 75, including himself, and 2 Hall of Fame. 63 Boston Celtics, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top 75, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Hall of Famers. This is crazy, guys. It's just to even count this up. In Wilt Chamberlain on this team in that same year, 63, him as only top 75, and I think this dude Guy, what's his name? Guy, I forget his name. Richie, Hall of Fame. That's the only people. 64 on the Boston Celtics. 1, 2, 3 top 75. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Hall of Famers. And for Will's team in 64, 2 top 75, 1 Hall of Famer. 65, what is it? 3 Hall of Famers on the Boston Celtics. 1, 2, 3, 4 Hall of Famers. In 65 for Wilt, that team, including Wilt, 2 top 75 and 2 Hall of Fame. 66, Boston Celtics, 3 top 75, 2 Hall of Fame. And then you got for Wilt Chamberlain's team, 3 top 75 in, what is this, 1 Hall of Fame. Still don't match up. Coming close. 67, 3 Hall of Fame. 3 top 75, 2 Hall of Fame on the Boston Celtics. And for Wilt, 3 top 75, 1 Hall of Fame. So whatever year you want to go with, they still got more. 68. Boston Celtics, what is it? 3 top 75, 4 Hall of Fame. So they added, man. Wilt team, 3 top 75, 1 Hall of Fame. 69, his last year, Bill Russell, 3 top 75. So it's always 3 top 75 for this guy. At least. 3 top 75, 2 Hall of Fame. And then for Wilt Chamberlain, I don't even think he played this year, but 2 top 75. No, 3 top. It was all 3 top 75. So we wouldn't even give Wilt a chance to even start winning. We'll beating the Boston Celtics until about, oh my God, maybe 66. And that's the year, I think that's the year he won it. Yep. If I'm mistaken, I want to say that's the year he won it. In 66. So yeah, I mean, I want to see Jim address this graphic right here. Like I said, man, the Boston Celtics for like 8-9 straight years brought 3 All-NBA players to the All-NBA. So wherever you want to put Bill Russell, that's fine with me. I think you guys been, told a whole bunch of stories that you don't know about. And what it does is, for everybody else, we can go back and look at their career and say, well, we can judge them by this, how many Hall of Famers they played with, top 75, who was in their prime, who was a better skilled player, who was a two-way player, who was an all-around player, who was, this and that, who hit the big shots, who did this. But for Bill Russell, none of that comes into account. We did so many on the, on the 4-part series. How from 50, what was it, 57 or 58? They had a first round bye until like 66. So they only had to play 1 playoff series before they went to the NBA Finals. Not only that, we did a piece where, Wilt Chamberlain basically dominated Bill Russell. Dominated him in rebounds, probably in blocks, but they didn't have that. In scoring. So you dominated Bill Russell at his own game, plus you was the greatest scorer of all time. Plus you dominated him in All-NBA every year. Put him on the second team just about every year. And I think he won I want to say 8 rebound titles over Bill Russell in the 60s. And I know we're going, Wilt won't play in the team game. We're going to play, we just went over all the guys he had. Who you gonna play a team game with? So you're trying to tell me Jerry West and Elgin Baylor, who was losing every season in the finals to them, weren't playing a team game? So was everybody supposed to do what Bill Russell did? Forget about their all-around skills and their two-way skills. So Bob Pettit, Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, and Wilt Chamberlain was supposed to turn into one-way players and just rebound defend? Because when we saw what Wilt Chamberlain did, he did exactly that, just to win a championship. And from there, his championship year, until he retired, he turned into a Bill Russell and played a one-way player. And he was better at assists and rebounds. And guess what? He still got his ass whooped by the Celtics. That's why I try to tell you guys. If you beat the Celtics back then, great. You got lucky. You hit the lottery. You're going to get your ass whooped the next year. And that's what happened to Bob Pettit. That's what happened to Wilt Chamberlain. They got lucky and beat them. And then got whooped the next year. It wasn't like, when we talk about, Wilt Chamberlain, yeah, he got over the hump in his 7th season, just like Michael Jordan. Go for the three-peat now, dominate the league. No. Michael Jordan didn't have the 60s Boston Celtics in front of him. He had the Knicks in front of him, the Cavs in front of him. And I'm not trying to diss his era. I'm just saying it was the talent was spread out in the 90s. And even Michael Jordan said that. Once he won a three-peat, he said he can't believe it because the league was, what do you want to call it? I forget the word. But the talent was spread out. So he couldn't believe he won a three-peat. And that's how the 70s was too. The talent was spread out. That wasn't like the 60s. The 60s, the talent wasn't spread out. It was all on Boston's team. Not to say these other teams didn't have great players. I'm not trying to say that. But 1 through 8, 9, the Boston team was loaded. So you could have 3 good players on your team or 2 good players on your team. You still gonna get whooped. They got it 1 through 8, 1 through 9. They were adding top 75 and Hall of Fame players to their teams after they won championships. Guys who were, out their prime, like we always say, Ray Allen came over to Miami, or Bob McAdoo came to the Lakers, or Bill Walton came. I don't think he was out of his prime, but he was hurt. Dennis Johnson, he was pretty much out of his prime. You just adding pieces with guys kind of like on their last leg. But they're Hall of Famers, top 75, whatever. That's what the Boston Celtics were doing. So you had Hall of Famers coming off the bench. So they were deep 1 through 8. Jim ain't gonna tell you this, man. Jim just gonna tell you that a dude who had Dennis Rodman skills, I know it hurts your feelings. Talking about skills, not mentality, skills. Remember, Bill Russell, he was so awful in high school. Nobody, what do you want to call the word? Gave him a scholarship. No, they came to watch him play. And they say he don't got it. He's not a basketball player. Not even by his rebounds and defense. They said no. He was klutzy. One team gave him a shot. And I'm not trying to talk down on, we know what he did in college and, stuff like that. Yeah, he got better. He became a defender and a rebounder. And Bill Russell, one of the greatest athletes of all time. We can't dispute that. But he's not a top 25 player. If somebody went and did a 4, this is even 5 now. 5 series video on Bill Russell, it would be embarrassing to put Bill Russell in the top 25. Not because he did something wrong or nothing like that. Not because he's not a top 75 player or all-time great player, but it would be embarrassing with his skill level and all the help he had to put him up there. And to me, like I said, you could do both. If he was a two-way player, all-around player, he had all that much help, they would still be condemning him. But for some reason, they ain't saying nothing. Him being a one-way player and it with all that help, they ain't saying nothing. Because he was on the greatest team. He was just part of the greatest team of all time. That's it, folks. You can't look at him as anything more. Yes, he was there for all the championships. Yes, because he was drafted at the right time. And he played 13 seasons. He was drafted at the right time when it was already good guys on his team or great guys on his team and then coming to his team. That's why Michael Jordan, when him and Michael Jordan was going back and forth, Michael Jordan said it would be easy to win championships in your era. And then he tried to come back at Michael Jordan. He said, well, if you was in my era, only the best players played in my era, because he said that, it wasn't that many players. It wasn't that many teams. So only the best, which is a lie. If you want to say that's the best, I don't know about that. But nevertheless, he tried to say, which that's kind of contradiction, because that means Michael Jordan would have the best players too. We know Bill Russell had the best players. So Michael Jordan would have the best players. So what would stop him from winning championships? Oh, Bill Russell, because he had all the best players. But he tried to say that John Paxson won't be there to hit that 3-point shot to get him that championship, because John Paxson wasn't good enough to make the league back then. But it wasn't Bill Russell hitting the shots. It was his teammates hitting the shots. So again, you got to take Jordan for, being serious, because Jordan was right. He says it's easy to win championships back then. If you had the number one seed until, what was it, 66 or something like that, you had a first round bye, and it was the best out of 3, but you had a first round bye and you only had to play one series, and then you went to the finals if you won that series. So it's head scratching how they even put this guy on Michael Jordan's level. It's head scratching. Like I said, I could think of way better players than Bill Russell, either all-around players or two-way players, and then have all that help.